Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we're ranking together the top tier Pokemon from PvP into a complete list for Great League so that you can see which Pokemon might be at the top rank overall. So starting off here, we're gonna have 50 Pokemon in total, and you might be wondering already, I can hear you from here, that Ganeto, okay, Surfet, Skarmory, Dragonite, these Pokemon are not gonna be even on top 50 on PvP. What are you talking about? Well, that's mainly because I have added here the top 50 Pokemon from PvP that do not have shadows at all. So we're gonna take a look at each individual Pokemon without its duplicate being a shadow. For example, we're gonna use only one Swampert and not two Swamperts because we're gonna use only the main Swampert. Of course, I'm gonna analyze in the process and gonna take a look at each individual Pokemon from both perspectives, and the shadow and that regular, so that you can have a clear understanding of my voting and my ranking over here. Also, I have two more candidates because if you didn't notice already, I have 52 Pokemon here, and that's mainly because I have added two of my personal choices so that we can see in the end of this video where those two are gonna rank in the meta. So let's start off the video by ranking the first Pokemon up on the list, and that is Dragonite. So about Dragonite, I like it a lot in the meta. I don't think it's gonna be an S-tier Dragon type Pokemon for the Great League format since Altaria is always gonna be around, but I don't think it's gonna be kinda useless, so I will definitely put it on the B tier because it has a lot of coverage, especially now with that superpower against those steel types, and that's why I like it a lot in the meta. I would put it much higher, but perhaps on a special cap it will perform much better. Now it's time to talk a little bit about Surfets because this Pokemon is an amazing fighter overall. I like it a lot, but most of the times it is gonna be used as a safe switch on an ABB team style with double fighting at the back, so in order to provoke that anti-fighter out of the way, and the other fighter, most likely something like a Machamp or a Medicham, will take the spotlight. So for that reason I will not put it on the B tier but instead on the C tier, because on the Great League format it feels a little bit too glassy and gets outbulked for sure by the other fighters on this list. So taking a step forward here, and we're gonna be met up with Skarmory. I like it a lot. I think that it has a lot of coverage with its defensive typing, but of course it can fall short to those steel types that exist in the meta, the other steel types at least, and of course it's gonna be the weakest link amongst those steel types. So I would not put it on the D, I will not put it on the C, but instead on the B tier, because most of the times it makes like a good leader for a lot of meta teams, especially Swampert teams in the meta, and Swampert is a high ranked Pokemon overall. So now we're gonna move forward into Golbat, which I think has a lot of play in the meta, but of course it is gonna be outshined by other flyers, and of course it has access to a weird moveset that will not help it against meta threats, something like a Bastiodon, something like a Galarian Stunfisk, or even a Melmetal, if that's gonna be a thing ever. And of course it is gonna struggle against the ice type Pokemon. Unfortunately, I have to put it on the D section since it doesn't have a lot of play at all. Perhaps on the C, but definitely on the D, kind of a D plus section for sure. So over here now we're gonna keep going with our Zvylus. Zvylus definitely has to be a D because it is gonna lose turn square to the fighters, it is gonna lose turn square to the fairy types, and even though you can avoid those threats with your team composition, whatever that might be, I think that still Zvylus doesn't have a lot of play competitively in a lot of meta relevant teams, against a lot of meta relevant teams. With that said, now we have Togedemaru, and this is another D tier Pokemon. I think it is kinda overrated for PvP. I don't know why it is on the top 50 list here, but still it is gonna provide a lot of damage with those wild charges. I understand that, but it is not that good on its coverage. It is gonna struggle against the ground types, which are everywhere. It is gonna struggle a lot against other electrics, against water types. It has also a loose condition all the time because it's kinda fragile, so perhaps you can use it as a closer, but not the strongest one on the list. time for Chestnut now, and we're gonna put this Pokemon on the B tier because as it seems Chestnut is kinda underrated. I like it a lot in the meta. It is gonna be afraid of the flyers, obviously being double weak to those Pokemon, but also has coverage against the steel types which dominate the entire Great League, has coverage against a lot of meta threats, especially against the water types with those frenzy plants, and hits like a truck. However, it is kinda glassy, and that's a main reason I will not put it on the A tier. Now it's time for Red Eyes, and to be honest, I was gonna put this Pokemon as a D+, so on the D tier, but as it seems, it has a lot of play on Great League, so I'm just gonna put on the C because it has some really nice nukes. However, with Regirock and Registeel around, I don't think that it will ever shine that much. Also now we're gonna be moving forward with another bulky Pokemon, this time with Mandibuzz. So Mandibuzz is a weird choice, mostly because of its typing. I think that it can help a lot of Great League teams out there, providing coverage against flyers and ghost types. Not a lot of Pokemon can do that at the same time, while it can go neutral against its counters as well, which is pretty neat. Even against the Galarian Stunfisk, it can provoke some shields on the long term of the battle. However, it doesn't feel that safe for the meta. It is still gonna struggle against the ice types, it is still gonna struggle against those fairy types, so I'm just gonna put it unfortunately on the C. Now we have Toxapex. When Toxapex was released, this Pokemon had a lot of hype around it. However, those weird expectations that we were having at the time did not translate into a very good Pokemon overall, so I have to unfortunately put it on the C tier. It is still gonna be kind of the Basildon of the ocean, so kind of a circumstantial Pokemon, but still not that much of a great Pokemon to use on your Great League teams. Now time to move on with Munchlax, and to be honest, I like this Pokemon a lot. However, we have a better leaker on this list. You already know which one I'm talking about, and that is Lickitung. And with Bulldoze being such a bad move, I don't think that Munchlax can rank that high actually on this tier list. So unfortunately, I have to put it on the D. So about Meganium now, after the shift on the flying meta back on December with the wing attack boost, well, Meganium doesn't see a lot of play. Actually, not at all of a play on Great League. So I'm just gonna put it as well on the D, because even though it has access to Earthquake to threat those steel types, it feels like it will never be enough to finish off its opponents, and of course it is gonna struggle even against the fighters, which is kinda of a drawback for this Pokemon. Now let's move forward into Haxorus, and this Pokemon had a lot of hype as well on its community day, with Axew being featured in it, and now with Counter and Night Slash and Breaking Swipe has a lot more play, and that's why we're gonna see it on the top 50 list of this Great League format. However, I don't see it being that meta relevant overall. It is still gonna be overshadowed by Pokemon like Dragonite and Altaria, the other dragon types on the list. However, it is a weird and unique option with Counter, and only for that reason I'm gonna put it on the C. Otherwise, it could have been put on the D, which is a bummer. Now about Basil, this is a weird case as well. I like this Pokemon a lot, alongside Chestnut, much like Chestnut actually. It is gonna be double weak to the flyers, but still has so much damage against the opponents, has a lot of coverage with its moves. However, even though it can debuff the opponent, sometimes it is gonna get walled down against certain threats, something like a Noctowl for example. You have nothing to throw up against it. Something like an Altaria for example, yeah, no clue at all how to overcome those obstacles, so I'm just gonna put it as well on the C. So about Aurorus now, this is gonna be a weird case because it's gonna be double weak to those fighters, it's gonna be weak to Stone Edge and Rock Slides, while also it is gonna lose to the ground type Pokemon as well. However, this Pokemon has a lot of play. In any normal situation, I was gonna put it on the C or on the D, perhaps D+, but I think that it still has a lot of meta relevance, so I'm just gonna put it here on the B, because with simple Meteor Beam it can charge up its attack stat even more, so that the Weather Balls then will hurt any opponent out there. So time about Azumarill. If we were gonna talk about the previous 2 seasons, I was gonna be on a weird situation where Azumarill would not even rank that high than I am planning to put it right now, because Azumarill didn't have a lot of play. However, on this meta, it is gonna be kinda stale, but still it's gonna provide a lot of solutions for a lot of your teams. So definitely not an A tier Pokemon, but still not a B. So I will just rank it on the B plus side, and I will put it on the B here, but of course it could easily be transitioned into the A tier list. Now time for Abomasnow. This is another weird choice, since you're gonna see that with Leaf Edge now it might have a completely different playstyle. However, we're still not gonna see it a lot on Great League, and that is a bummer. So I'm just gonna put this Pokemon on the D, because it is still gonna lose even against the things that it is supposed to win, against the Flyers for example, because it is Barred Grass, and whenever you're gonna see something like a Charizard up against you, you stand no chance at all getting one-shotted down, and perhaps if you had a second Abomasnow with you, well, 2 Abomasnows could have simply been destroyed down by a simple Focus Blast or a Blast Burn for sure. So now let's talk about the biggest winner in my opinion from those move updates, and that is Dugong. So Dugong cannot be definitely on the D, cannot be on the C, but it could be on the B. However, I do not like it here on the B at all, because now with Drillrun has access to the steel coverage, and I like it a lot, while Icy Wind will give it the option to debuff the opponent, and that can always work towards your advantage. I think that we have to put Dugong on the A, and this is gonna be the first Pokemon from the list so far that is gonna rank up so high, and I like it a lot. I think it has a lot of meta relevance, and of course it is a meta defining Pokemon as well. Now let's talk about Diggersby. This is another weird Pokemon that I enjoy a lot, and I think that we have to put it unfortunately on the B. Not a B plus, just a straight B for this Pokemon, since it will struggle against the fighters, has a lot of play against those steel types, but still it is gonna take so much damage from other things, something like an Altaria, something like a Noctowl, unless you run Hyper Beam, which is a spicy move by the way, and will not give you options against other threats. You're gonna be in deep trouble even against those Flyers, and of course even against the Registeel you still can get so much damage from a simple Focus Blast, which is a bummer. Now Battle Durandis, I like this Pokemon as well, has a lot of play with its moveset. However, against the Flyers no play at all, and of course against neutral scenarios, something like a fighter for example, you can go up toe to toe up against this Pokemon, but still not that much of a big threat for any fighter at all. Also losing straight and square to those poison types, so with Toxapex already being on the C, I have to put it either on the C or on the D. So because we're not gonna see this Pokemon a lot and it has low bulk with minimal coverage, I'm just gonna put it on the D. So on the D is also gonna be for the Wobbuffet, only because of it being super much Excel based, and of course it doesn't have a lot of coverage against ghost types. It is just gonna be walled down, it is just gonna be a punching bag. Of course this is gonna be its main design for sure from Pokémon Company, but of course I think that you can have a lot of more counter options out there for you to pick, so don't go with Wobbuffet. I hate this Pokemon. Yeah, I don't know why I have put it here. It is stalling so much the battle that it doesn't make any sense at all. So enough about this one, let's talk about another staller for sure, and that is a Mantine. So Mantine is an interesting case. You know how crazily good this Pokemon can be. I like it a lot with Bubble Beam to debuff the opponent and can stall the matches as well. However, with Dugong being around, we already have the better debuffer here, and I cannot put it on the D, just gonna be on the C unfortunately for that Mantine. Now let's move forward with Guzzlord, and this Pokemon is looking pretty unique. It is part Dragon, part Dark. Okay, I know Hydreigon might also be around, but with Dragon Tail it can pressure so much the opponent, especially if you can snipe one or two between your opponent's charge attacks, but of course it's still gonna lose straight and square to the fighters and those ice type Pokemon, while fairy types are just gonna destroy it down. So unfortunately I have to put it on the D alongside Zweilous, as it seems. Now we're gonna take a look at Ninetales. This Pokemon is pretty cool. Ice typing is pretty good offensively, and when you pair it up with fairy typing, it is just gonna dominate the meta. Has access against the fighters, even though it is gonna be an ice type as well. You can play it either with Powder Snow or with Charm, and when we're looking at Ninetales from the Shadow perspective, those charms are just gonna add up in damage even more. So this Pokemon has a lot of play in the meta, I like it a lot, so I'm just gonna put it here on the A tier, and this is gonna be the second ice type Pokemon taking this spot. Umbreon is a Pokemon that used to be super good, super meta relevant back in season 1, the first few seasons, but as the time was passing, we saw that Umbreon is not a big deal at all in Go Battle League. Now it has a lot of counters, and of course it is mainly gonna be used much like Surfetched in a double dark team to provoke that anti-dark out of the way, so that the second dark, most likely something like a Scrafty, can do the remaining work. However, even against its counters, even against a fighter, it has an answer with Psychic or just go double Last Resort, because it has so much bulk in comparison when you compare it with a Surfetched. So for that reason, and only for that reason, I'm just gonna put it on the B and not the C. Now let's take a look at Regirock. This Pokemon is pretty good. I mean it has access to Lock-On, which means that it can charge up its charge attacks pretty fast, can get there to Stone Edge in no time at all, and also you get coverage for the flyers with more coverage against the flyers with your Zap Cannon or a Focus Blast to threat the other steel types that exist in the meta. So perhaps I might put this one on the B, perhaps on the C. You know what, for now I'm gonna put it on the B, and we'll see together if I might change that in the entire video of today. From today. So let's see now what we have up against the next pick, because we're taking a look at another dragon type, and this is unique as well. Much like Haxorus, this Pokemon has also the fighting element in it. However, it is gonna be on its typing and close combat as a charge attack. I like it more on the Ultra League level, not so much on the Great League format, so for that reason I'm gonna put it on the D, actually on the C, because it has access to close combat. So even against Ice type Pokemon, it can do a lot of solid work nuking down that Ice type. So why not on the C? Yeah, it is definitely a C minus, not even a C here. It is gonna be kinda between D and C, but I'm just gonna put on the C for obvious reasons. So now we're gonna take a look at Cresselia. So for Cresselia, I like this Pokemon. It has access to Grass Knot, to Future Sight and Moonblast, 3 moves that can cover pretty much the entire meta, even against fire types. If you want to use Cresselia with Future Sight, you can have a chance at beating them down. So for that reason, I will put Cresselia on the A tier. However, it is gonna be kinda rough to get it below 1500 CP, but if you have one, you already know that Cresselia is an amazing Pokemon, a very good investment, and also pretty good on those special caps. Now let's take a look at the next Psychic type Pokemon, and that is Deoxys on its defense form. So you didn't know already, Deoxys is an amazing Pokemon for Great League. I like it a lot in the meta. This could easily have been an S tier Pokemon, but I have to drop it on the A tier because I have to rank it as A+. This Pokemon is the better one, I believe, from the other A's that we have here, like Dugong, like Ninetales, like Cresselia, and I think that the main purpose of that is the move counter that it has. However, I cannot put it on the S because it is gonna lose straight and square to those ghost types, especially the Sableye, and of course you're gonna see that it has a lot of neutral matchups, and that is gonna help it a lot and will establish it as a main A tier Pokemon. Now about Gliscor, this is another exceptional choice for Great League. It has access to Earthquake for those steel types. It is part flying, which means that it can also deal with the fighters, and also it is not weak to electric moves because of its ground typing. However, it is gonna be double weak to the ice type, and of course, seeing that we have Dugong and Ninetales here as ice type Pokemons on the A tier, we have some more like Aurorus here, like Regis, like Abomasnow. I cannot put it on the A tier. Instead, I will just drop it on the B tier, only because of the reason that it can nuke down unsuspected opponents and has access to Night Slash for those ghost types, so it has an insane coverage, but of course it is still gonna lose to those ice types. Now let's talk a little bit about Jellicent, because this Pokemon, besides the normal types, I think that it has no other weakness, perhaps Umbreon, because even against the Scrafty, for example, you still have those Surfs now, and this is the biggest winner from the previous season. Of course, this is no competition at all, because the previous season was just a fluke, and the Surf addition was the only good thing that happened to Jellicent from that move update. So I have to put it on the A tier. This Pokemon, I like it a lot, I enjoy its coverage. I mainly use it as my main switcher. Most of the times it can draw out the dark type, while it can also have solid play with Ice Beam against the Flyers on special formats, and of course it has more play on Ultra League in my opinion, but still here on Great League it is just gonna be an A tier Pokemon. Perhaps I could put on the B as a B+, but I think that A- is the better grade that I could give to it. Now let's talk about Alolan Sandslash, and this Pokemon I do not like its shadow at all. I prefer it as a regular one because on the Great League format it is most likely gonna two-shot down pretty much anything in the meta. Alongside Dugong, this is another big winner from this season's update, and I'm just gonna put it on the A tier because of that factor. Driller now can just do so much damage on the opponent, has access to Shadow Clone, of the best moves, fast attacks moves in the game, and also Ice Punch can be used as your cheap charge attack. If you want to go even more spicy there, Blizzard might be your next choice, or even Gyro Ball for those fairy types. So with that said, now let's see what we have up next, because Bastodon is gonna take over, and I have to put this Pokemon on the C. It's not like I hate it, but I do not like being so stalling on the matches for no reason at all. It is gonna either wall the opponent or get walled by those grounds and those fighters, so I do not like it at all. I'm just gonna put it on the C tier, not even on the D, but definitely a well prepared C for that Bastodon Pokemon. So Altaria now, this is an excellent choice for Great League. You already know how good Altaria can be, you already know how Altaria can manipulate a lot of battles. However, against the Steel types and the Ices, it will fall down miserably. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it on the A, even though it is the best dragon from this list. Now about Pidgeot, I think that with Noctowl being around, perhaps Pidgeot isn't seeing that much the spotlight of Great League, so I'm just gonna put this Pokemon on the B, even though I think that it has the potential to be a great Pokemon overall if it gets a move with coverage against anything other than having pure flying type moves. Now about Vigoroth, this Pokemon used to be one of the best safe suits in the game, but when Double was introduced, well, Vigoroth definitely lost a lot of ground here. So for that reason, I will put on the D, but if you were asking me before the Double era, I will definitely give it an A over here. So now about Walrein, this is a fantastic choice for Great League. I think that even after the Icicle Spear nerf with that energy requirement, I think that still Walrein is gonna be one of the best Pokemon that you can use on the Great League. This could easily be an S tier with the old Icicle Spear energy requirement, but for that reason I'm just gonna put it on the A tier because I have a feeling it is gonna be more like an A plus Pokemon. So about Lantern, same thing, I like it a lot, has access to a lot of great moves. Against the Flyers you have Thunderbolt, against the ground types you got Surf, and of course you got neutral coverage against things like a Registeel, like a Fighter, like a Swampert, which is just great. But still I don't think that it's gonna be that great against the grass types, so I cannot put it unfortunately on the S tier. So this is another A tier Pokemon for me. You're seeing that we are getting closer and closer to the final 10 here, and we have pretty cool familiar faces coming up. So let's see now what the next Pokemon might be, and ironically here right next to Lantern we're gonna have Noctowl. This is the bread and butter from the previous season. Everywhere you were gonna see Trevenants, Lanterns and Noctowl. So this season with the recent nerf on Trevenant, Lantern and Noctowl will definitely stay in the spotlight, and I think that Noctowl has to be an S-type Pokemon. That's mainly because of Shadow Ball. Hear me out on this. It is not like a Pelipper situation where Pelipper is gonna struggle straight and square against a Lantern, but Noctowl, even against its solid counter, something like a Galarian Stunfisk, something like a Lantern, has to make the opponent throw all their energy in no time to bring it to no HP. Otherwise, they are gonna regret it with a double Shadow Ball or just keep pressuring with those Sky attacks. So for that reason, I'm just gonna put it on the S tier. I think that it deserves it, and of course, Noctowl is an amazing amazing Pokemon overall. So getting into now the next Pokemon, we have Whiskas. To my surprise, Whiskas doesn't see a lot of play in the meta. I think it is an A-tier Pokemon for sure. Could have been S because of Blizzard being able to one-shot down those grass-type Pokemon, but still with that Mud Bomb buff, it doesn't seem to be kinda good in the meta. Most people tend to use a Swampert or a Quagsire for their Mud Boy spot, but overall I think that with Blizzard, Whiskas can destroy down a lot of opponents. And as we have already said on this video and on other videos as well, Ice typing is amazing offensively. So not having it defensively but only offensively can only work towards its advantage. So here comes Whiskas now landing on that A-tier. I cannot put it on the S unfortunately, but still A-tier is where you can find it for sure. Now let's talk a little bit about Sableye. So Sableye is a fantastic Pokemon. It has a lot of play even against a Charmer with a potential return, and for that reason I think that it has no counters at all. However, it might struggle a little bit against some of those normal types. The good news here is that even against the normal types, this is gonna be a very close battle. I have to put Sableye on a very high spot. It is gonna be either A as an A plus or just be an S. So I'm just gonna go with the S here because Sableye has a lot of play against the meta. I really like how well it can adapt to most battles, and of course has returned for its worst counter, so there goes that. Now let's talk about Double, because we talked a little bit about it from when we were ranking that Vigoroth, and to be honest I do not think that Vigoroth stands on the same level like Double. Definitely not gonna be an A-tier Pokemon because Double is a strong pick, isn't very easy to get it. I know because Wooloo is super rare for some reason, but still Double has a lot of options in the meta. I'm not gonna put it on the A tier, but still it is gonna take a whole B as its tier list, and I think this is gonna be pretty generous for it. Now about Machamp, well, when Medicham is in the meta and you are just a pure fighting, it is still gonna be strong but not that much. I think that Shadow Machamp definitely has more play than anything else in the meta as a Shadow, because Shadow Machamp is on a completely whole new level with those counters, able to pressure even more, but I will not go ahead and put it that high. Unfortunately I have to drop it on the C. Not gonna be a B, but not even a whole C, just gonna be something like a C++. So with that said, now we are on the final almost 10 over here. So we're having now Quagsire able to land pretty high on those rankings of PvPoke after the recent addition of Mud Bomb this season. So for that reason I think it has to be a well-known A over here. Not gonna go for a B. I think that A is the better one that can suit it, and of course you're gonna see that with Stone Edge you get access now to those flyers, which is pretty neat. Now time for Lickitung over here, and I think that Lickitung was pretty better, actually much better, not pretty better, much better before the wing attack buff. That's mainly because Noctowl was not a thing, and now that Noctowl is a thing, Lickitung doesn't see the spotlight of Great League that much. So for that reason I have to put it either on the C or the D, but for this incident, this Pokemon, it cannot be a D, right? Look at what Pokemon we have on the D, and cannot be on the same level like Munchlax. So I'm just gonna put a level above on the C. Even though it could easily be a B, I think that C suits it better. Look at what Pokemon we have on the B, it cannot be on the same level like Double, right? Right now we're gonna see on the next spot the Pelipper, and I like Pelipper a lot. However, it's gonna struggle straight and square to those electrics, thus that Lantern. So I have to put it on the A and not the S for that reason. Also, it is gonna struggle a lot against Red Steel, but it has a lot of play even against its counters, even against Bastiodon, even against Red Steel, even against Stunfisk, for example. It can still nuke them down with back-to-back Weather Balls, or just go with a Hurricane against an Altaria and you're gonna be just fine. So definitely an A, not an S, not a B, just a straight A for Pelipper. To my surprise here, we have two fighters standing right next to each other, and the first one is gonna be Scrafty. So Scrafty has a solid fit in the meta. I think that it is definitely not an S tier Pokemon, but it has a lot of play due to its dark typing, making it unique for the meta. It is gonna rank up pretty high, and if you can have some neutral matches for it under shielding, you can take advantage of your power up punches, charging up your counters so that you can deal even more damage and eventually finish off your opponent with a potential foul play. So with that in mind, I think that Scrafty deserves an A for sure, perhaps an S, but I think that with Medicham being a solid option, you cannot put the S on the Scrafty, and since Medicham is right after, we're just gonna go for it straight for the S tier. This Pokemon is looking pretty good. I like how well it is now with those Excel being invested in it, but of course if you do not have Excels, you can also use a Hundo. Just go for it, you are not gonna regret it. Medicham is an amazing Pokemon overall, has insane coverage even against those psychics, even against those fairies with its moveset, so that's why I have to put it on the S. And when you compare it with Deoxys over here, it might lose to it, but still it has better moves for coverage, so that's why we're gonna put it on the S tier. Now about Swampert, you already know that this Pokemon is the real GOAT, even though we got already a GOAT here like Dapwool, but I think that the real GOAT is gonna be Swampert. Of course I cannot put it on the S, no Mudboy can ever be on the S tier. Instead I'm gonna put it on the A, much like the other two Mudboys over here, because it is gonna get insane coverage with its typing, but also it is gonna lose Traded Square to those grass types. If I was gonna rank those three Mudboys, I would put actually Whiskas first, Quagsire second, and Swampert third, so they are gonna stay like they are over here already. So let's talk now about Stunfisk, and Stunfisk is a well-known Pokemon for Great League. Everyone is using it. I think that everyone deserves to use it, and that's the reason I'm gonna put it on the S for sure. This Pokemon has insane coverage. The back-to-back earthquakes can still threat a whole Medicham out of existence, which is crazy if you ask me, to threat a fighting type Pokemon with your steel typing, which you are weak to. So taking advantage of that can also be a strong opponent against Deoxys for sure, so that's why I'm gonna put it on the S. Now about Registeel, I know what you're thinking. Ganeto Registeel is an amazing Pokemon, you have to put it on the S. You know what, I'm not even gonna put it on the A, just gonna go with it on the B, because most of the times it feels kinda weird to use a Registeel on the meta. I do not like how little damage those Lock-ons do. Also I do not like how I am most of the times vulnerable to neutral matchups, and of course it is never enough to finish off a single Pokemon with one move. Even a Noctowl cannot be one-shotted down with a simple Zap Cannon, which is a bummer, and that's why I have to put it on the B. I think it is overrated, and speaking of overrated Pokemon, this is now the number one ranked Pokemon on PvPoke, and that is Carbink. So Carbink is rank 1, so obviously I have to put on the S, right? Guess what? No, I'm gonna put on the C, and that's mainly because it is gonna lose to other Pokemon, and those other Pokemon are gonna be enough. So it is losing to those Mudboys, it is losing to Registeel, it is losing to Stunfisk, it is losing to Bastiodon, it is losing to the Fighters. It can finish off the Ice type Pokemon and the Flyers, but still at what cost? Are you kidding me? I don't know why Carbink has so much hype. I don't care at all. Carbink has to be one of the worst Pokemon ever to be introduced, and with that hype, I don't think that it can take the spot of a higher Pokemon. Perhaps on the B, perhaps on the C. Just gonna stay on the C, okay, yeah, it is gonna be the C. So anyways, so this is gonna be the final ranking of my final 50, and now I'm gonna go with my two favorite Pokemon on Go Battle League and Great League, and those two are Shadow Zapdos and Shadow Drapion. Starting with Shadow Drapion, let's see where am I gonna put this Pokemon, because it is kinda rank 70, I believe, on PvPoke if I remember correctly, pretty low, but still I think that I have to rank it on the rank S, because this Pokemon has no weakness at all. I mean it when I say this. It is gonna lose only to Gastrodon, okay? Only to Mudslaps, but besides that, you're gonna see that Shadow Drapion has no weakness at all, can go toe to toe even against its whole counters. You have access to Crunch, which is a must have to be honest, and then you can either go with Sludge Bomb to nuke down unsuspected opponents, and Shadow Drapion also has coverage against the Flyers for sure, which is pretty awesome. You can two-shot down a lot of meta threats, something like a Medicham, something like a Lantern, something like a Skarmory. Shadow Drapion just doesn't care. I think it's my personal favorite S-tier Pokemon that you can use, the safest switch of them all, and with Aqua Tail you get an even spammer charge attack just for you. Now let's talk about the mascot of this channel. Where will Shadow Zapdos land over here? Because I can already hear you think that Ganeto is gonna put it on the S tier, right? Well, guess what? I am not gonna do it, because it is not an S tier, it is not an A tier, it is not a B tier, but unfortunately I have to put it on the C tier, which is a bummer, and for that reason I think that Shadow Zapdos, yeah, I don't know. I feel sad to see Shadow Zapdos so low, but still it makes a lot of sense. It is gonna get super outbulked by a lot of meta Pokemon. Look at what we have here. We have Cresselia, we have Jellicent, we have Altaria, we have so many good Pokemon, and I do not even want to talk about its straight counter, something like a Dugong, something like a Bastiodon. I do not even want to talk about it. So this is gonna be my tier list for Great League. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was kind of a different one. Just be sure to share with your friends if you like today's content. Perhaps they want to share their thoughts as well under this video in the comment section, so feel free to do so. And with that said, trainers, also feel free to leave a like before you go, and of course consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more of my content. With that said, once again, just be sure to check one of these two videos if you want to support me even more and continue your Ganeto journey here on YouTube, and I hope to see you all into the next one.